Okay, welcome again to our weekly marketplace influencer. We have a special guest. Actually, this is my first time to meet him. I just always see him from afar kasi para siyang rock star sa financial industry. That's my perception kasi pag I get to see a speaker who's credible with what they're doing, parang gusto mong matutunan o ma-meet. And I haven't met this guy until now, and I get to hear about a lot from him, from common friends, from leaders that I respected. They would mention this name, and that's why it's a privilege to meet him. And without further ado, probably for me, this I would consider the best or among the best financial guru in the Philippines. Gurus in the Philippines. Without further ado, let's welcome Mr. Randell Tiongson.
Hey, thank you, Tommy, for inviting me. Just like you, I've heard about your name. I think we were even Facebook friends for quite some time, but never actually met. So okay lang, okay. So again, thank you for having me. I think medyo exage naman yung introduction mo, but I've been in the industry kasi for a long time. So I've been in the, believe it or not, no, I've been connected with the financial services industry for 32 years. 32
Wow.
years na. So I'm old na. So I'm in my I'm in my mid-50s already. So been in the industry for 32 years. That's why, parang, and tama, a lot of people see the highlights, but I started from the beginning, from the bottom of the bottom, and parang create this over time.
Yeah. Siguro yung tanong ko lang kasi parang may kanya-kanyang forte. Nyari, a particular well-known speaker, they can mention about leadership, may iba naman about stocks, mga ganon. How did you discover sa'yo, ito yung linya ko, finance? How did you discover?
Okay. Ang line ko para lang clear, it's personal finance, financial planning. So more general yan, it involves many things, but I want to focus on putting them together. I guess kasi yung background ko, I started to work from a bank, and then I moved to insurance company. I was doing sales, I was doing management, I was still doing a little bit of I also did training. So parang nakita ko, while a lot of people are specialists, wala yung putting them together. Like for instance, Tommy, if I talk to you, I would like to need to understand ano yung situation mo. Some of them requires investment, some of them requires insurance, some of them requires getting out of debt. So merong parang way to do all of these things. It's called financial planning. And that doon ako nag-focus. Because I need to be able to be knowledgeable in the different facets of finance. Pero parang ang trabaho ko is to put them all together, because we go through different things, and we go through different challenges then. So yun yung napili ko that led me to do many things because of my background. I worked for the bank, then insurance, mutual funds, parang ganun yung naging point ko. And you really have to encourage. Filipinos kasi by nature, hindi naman sila financially savvy. So kailangan mo turuan sila. So that's the whole thing. 2000 and I was been doing that, teaching that, and na-realize ko, hindi pwede insurance lang, hindi pwede investment lang. So we need to have a more cohesive approach. Siguro beginning towards the end of the 1990s, beginning of the 2000, I felt that there need to be a better way of doing it. So I studied, I researched, I attended conferences abroad. Na-realize ko, huling-huli na pala ang Pilipinas pagdating dito sa financial education, personal finance, and financial planning. So that led me to have this parang heart to start teaching. At that time, I was still involved. I was still part of insurance companies. So parang I was doing it on the side. So for many, many years, 2005, it led me into the co-founding of the Registered Financial Planner Institute. Kasi we really wanted to have a better way of doing things. And then, siguro 2007, 2008, I really felt the Lord wanted me to do this in a more full-time, independently. Kasi ang hirap, You're talking about financial education, financial planning, pero you represent a company. Siyempre, di ba, people will think there's a bias. Even if wala kang bias, meron. So, I felt that it was time for me, after being in the industry for many years, with a stable job, in income, I felt siguro 2007 nadi-disturb na ako. 2008 I made that decision, and I went on my own in 2009. So by 2009, tamang-tama kakatapos lang ng we were in the thick of the financial crisis, and a lot of people were losing money. A lot of people were afraid. Parang ngayon, so that's when I went independently as a speaker, writer, author. So I had to do multiple things from that perspective. So from 2009, 2010, all the way, for a few years, I continued to do what I was doing and partnered with a lot of people.
Thank you for sharing that, Sir Randell. I guess, nisip ko, kasi I was taking a course, yung about South Korea, yung branding nila, how it's successful. Tapos sinabi na, si Psy, yung Oppa Gangnam Style, hindi naman yan one hit, hindi naman yan overnight.
Yes.
It was 12 years in the making. It was 12 years in the making. And when you share na, 32 years in the making pala to. So it's not something na may shortcuts. I guess kasi siguro tayo mga Pilipino, minsan gusto natin shortcuts, copy-paste, ganun na lang, ganun kadali. And you work through it also.
Yeah.
Siguro next question ko.
I think what people need to learn right now is that there's no such thing as an overnight success. Kung meron man, it's really more of an exception rather than a rule. Diba? I mean, I built my whatever brand that I have right now ngayon, it's been over a decade na. So alam mo yun, it's not something, and prior to that, the work started much earlier. The work started in the 90s, diba? All the way to, when I started to do what I'm doing. So, and even now, it continues to evolve. Kaya nga when people tell me, so, Mr. Randell, how can I be like you? Sabi ko, well, time, diba? It's time. Kasi building your expertise, building your competency, it does not happen, diba? Kasi 'di ba, meron tayong mga feeling na magse-seminar lang, expert na. 'Di ba? Parang umattend lang ng 1-week seminar, life coach na, yung mga ganyan. So we need to get people to understand that this takes time, and the experiences, the heartaches, the troubles, that's part of building who you are. And yan, unfortunately, walang shortcut. Maybe you can build something quickly, pero pag tiningnan mo lahat yan, nag-start yan na mahaba. Maybe hindi ka mukha ko na 30 years. No? But hindi yan pwede ng weeks lang or months lang. And usually, Tommy, it takes years na to do this.
Thank you for sharing that. Yun ngayon, nakita ko na walang shortcut. Talagang there will be heartache. So, when you're talking about there are heartaches, syempre, kaya ka tumagal sa ganon, what are the fulfilling aspects of what you're doing that made you stay? Kasi I think the fulfilling part overwhelmed the heartaches kaya tumagal sa ganon
Okay, not to sound preachy, Tommy, but sa akin, very clear sa akin, this is my calling Because everybody focuses on their potential, the growth, these things, and there is nothing wrong with that. Sa akin, hindi naman overnight, but it was clear, It was clear that this is my calling. And because this is my calling, I need to work on this. I need to focus on this. I need to make this my main thing in life. So 2008, I felt this is the Lord was asking me to leave the corporate. Didn't know what I was getting into. Parang, in fact, my boss told me I was crazy, for resigning. Parang ganon. So I had a stable job. I was a senior officer. I was a head of department. Parang, so when I resigned it, the people thought I was crazy. But siguro faith then also. I knew the Lord wanted me to do something, pero I didn't know how it was until over the years it became clearer and clearer. So the heartaches are there, the challenges, they continue to be there. Pero siguro yung knowing that this is your calling and understanding that may grace si Lord sa'yo dahil calling mo yan. So yan yung story ko. Kung feeling ko hindi calling to. Kasi ito nga yung problema Maraming tao, they're driven by their passions. But calling is something that's different. They're driven by purpose So when you know that this is your purpose and you know that the purpose came from the Lord, came from your purpose giver, came from your creator, then, you must steadfast ka So mas steadfast ka. So I think that was, if I look at something, I was never in a hurry. And that was that different. Before kasi I was always in a hurry. Ngayon I was in a hurry. I take my time. If I have plans, it did not fulfill, I'm patient. The problem with today, meron kasing maraming beliefs na pinaniniwala ng maraming tao, especially the young ones, that whatever they're going through, they can power through things. Pero in reality, you cannot power through things 'Di ba? Hindi yan nadadaan ng positive thinking, hindi yan nadadaan ng attitude lang. You have to experience many things until eventually you understand what you need to do. And you stick to it. And yan lang.
Yeah, thank you. Siguro natuan ko is your calling overwhelms or exceeds your yung heartaches.
Yeah,
So last question
calling
ko,
and Tommy, calling and your purpose. I mean, they're connected.
calling and purpose.
So
Okay.
this is what I've been telling a lot of people. Because there's a tendency that the world tells you it's about passion. And when you really look at it, everybody's driven by their passions. But the problem with passions, Tommy, is that nagbabago yan Example and maybe you and me, 10 years ago or 15 years ago, we may be passionate about other things and that's not what we're doing today. So passions do change. It's a heart's eye. But your purpose and your calling, that's there. It's really given to you by your creator. So I have a tendency to focus more on my purpose. Of course, the passions are important. It makes things easier. It makes things exciting. Pero more on those things. And that's what drives me.
Okay, calling and purpose. So before we end, kasi medyo busy yung guest natin, siguro itong advice na lang, kasi yun nga, I'm saddened with some executives who are mentioning to me na they are about to lay off some people. But I get to see some Filipinos who are making good decisions. Kasi before I ask your advice, kasi nakita ko, the first thing that they did is to get into insurance. As either as alternative income, additional income, or yun yung nilipatan. And for me, that's a very noble job. Siguro I want to ask, especially right now, I get to hear right now, especially in the marketplace ministry, nakakalungkot kasi may ibang mga banks magda-downsize because of the technology. They are planned to downsize. So maraming mawalan ng work. You're coming from a bank, you are into insurance. Siguro sa mga pumasok ng life insurance, mga insurance, how would you encourage them to continue on even though it's not easy to sell? Kasi I get to hear na challenge.
Yeah. Well, number one, I haven't been part of that industry for many years, although I haven't been part of that industry since 2009. But I think it's not, alam mo, lahat ng trabaho may binabagayan yan I mean, maybe because they're desperate, because wala akong work, I'll do this. But it doesn't mean that you're gonna be successful there. So babalik pa rin tayo. Ano ba yung calling mo talaga? Kasi yung calling mo, it's in a way connected to what you're gonna be doing So if you find that you are called to do what you're doing, being in life insurance, and then you know that you can, then really be steadfast. But maybe you have to be, siguro may practical side din. Ito ba talaga, do you have the right skills for it? Do you have the right temperament? Do you have the right disciplines? Very different kasi yan especially if you're coming from an employment perspective and then you're now a freelance. It's a challenging. Some of them, they do really, really, really well, but not everybody. So yung success mo doon, really, mixed din siya And not just insurance, they can do other things. They can do MLM. Ngayon, they do play to earn. Mga ganun. So iba-iba yung ginagawa nila. Okay? But regardless of what, I think the number one is to weigh the opportunities there. And second, is to really seek it. This is something that you can do for a long term. Diba? So ganyan yung perspective. This is something that you need to do for a longer term. If you think you're not ready for that, maybe that's not the right place for you to transfer to.
Okay. Siguro tayo list down yung mga natuan ko sa inyo Your calling, it was not an overnight thing. It was years in the making. So there was no shortcut.
And Tommy, even your calling is not overnight revealed to you. I mean, the Lord is like that. He's very process oriented. So even my calling was revealed over time. It became clearer and clearer. It wasn't clear before. I think my calling before was to lead the corporate, to start teaching people, but I didn't understand why until the Lord begin to open things more and more for me. So it's really about revelation as well.
Okay. So yun, and you emphasize on calling and purpose. Talagang it's really crucial. And at the same time, yung last point na you shared is, kasi papasok sila is it something long-term ba?
Yeah.
Long-term.
Something sustainable, something you can do. Also, take a look at your skill set also. Ano ba kailangan mong gawin? Baka kailangan mag-training, kailangan I do that. I've been doing a lot of training, but And not, kasi di ba, feeling mo, na-train ka, okay na, hindi din eh. So, just like me, I thought I wanted to work for the bank when I worked for. After 2 years, parang this is not a place for me. So, you will also have come up with that moments in your life. Yeah.
So, before we end, ask ko lang kasi he is an author, so author, and he also speaks.
Yeah.
Are there any books that people can purchase online so that they can learn from the things that you're teaching also? Are there any books you want to promote right now and where they can buy?
Yeah, I still have books in some bookstores, but because of the pandemic, ang gulo, I have 2 books that they can order online. Just to go to check out my Facebook page or my website, or I have one that's already in Kindle. So meron ako nasa Kindle isa lang. So I'm trying to so isang Kindle, dalawang available. Some of them are out of print. At these challenging times, I don't know if I want to reprint some of them. I don't want to get stuck with books, but I have 2 titles with me that they can order online, and one that they can order through Kindle. Yeah.
Okay. Siguro itatag ko na lang sa caption yung mismong page nyo so that they can go directly. And website na, what's your website?
Yeah,
so that they can
randelltiongson.com. Okay.
Randelltiongson.com. So I'll tag that in the caption also.
And Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, I'm there. YouTube.
Okay.
So I have the 4 major social media platforms that I am medyo there. I'm still also in LinkedIn, but I don't really check it that much. So,
ayan. So before we end, I recommend kasi to read kasi I developed the reading habit for the past 8 years. Actually, more than 8 years na rin. Nakaka-20 books a year ako eh.
wow.
I strongly recommend it that because, especially right now, inisip ko, kung you're working from home or with all this limitation, wala nang traffic. Naisip ko nga eh, paano ko napuno yung 2 to 4 hours sa traffic sa right now eh. It's now there's time to read actually. So you visit randelltiongson.com or his Facebook page. I'll just tag it here. So I strongly recommend about reading. That's
Thank
one.
You, Tommy. Thank you. Yeah.
So are there any events you want to share that you want to promote?
I normally, everything's naman in my Facebook. I have a master class that's running, but this is for financial advisors. It's starting on Monday. But I'm kind of frequent companies they hire me, so I post everything in my social media account, so they can check it out. So follow me, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. So just put Randell Tiongson, lalabas naman yan.
Okay. Thank you, Sir Randell, for taking your time.
For having me. Yeah.
I really appreciate you giving your time and sharing your experience also. And that's our episode for today. Hope you learn from this and hope you join us again soon.
Thank you, Tommy. We're done?
Yeah.
Okay.